We are in the book of Exodus, Exodus chapter 36, starting at verse number 1, concluding at verse number 7. Exodus chapter 36 is on the screen for your viewing pleasure in a second here. But the Bible says this: So Bezalel, Oholiab, and every skilled person to whom the Lord has given skill and ability to know how to carry out all the work of constructing the sanctuary are to do the work just as the Lord has commanded. Then Moses summoned Bezalel and Oholiab and every skilled person to whom the Lord had given ability and who was able to come and do the work. They received from Moses all the offerings the Israelites had brought to carry out the work, constructing the sanctuary. And the people continued to bring free will offerings morning after morning. So all the skilled workers who were doing all the work of the sanctuary left what they were doing and said to Moses, "The people are bringing more than enough for doing the work that the Lord commanded to be done." Then Moses gave an order. All right, this is the only time this ever happened in church. They sent this word throughout the camp: no man and no woman is to make anything else as an offering for the sanctuary. And so the people were restrained from bringing more, because what they already had was more than enough to do all the work. It's the only time this ever happened in church. Stop giving. There's so much. Not going to happen anymore. So today's message is entitled, When People Follow God's Vision. When people follow God's vision. Victory, we're not supposed to be here. We are not supposed to be here in this moment, in this season, in this room. We're not supposed to be here. We are a church that's not supposed to look like this, think like this, act like this, feel like this. The experience is all wrong. We are not supposed to be here. Now, some of you guys are confused because you're like, what do you mean we're not supposed to be here? I just got up early in the morning. I could have been asleep, but I came all the way here to 4150 West O'Galley to hear somebody give me a word. Are you telling me I'm not supposed to be here? Yep, I am telling you that you are not supposed to be here. And the reason why you're not supposed to be here is because there are so many problems with the church today. There are problems. In fact, first problem is that a lot of people just don't do church. I mean, think about it. Look, I mean, if you take out your cell phone right now, you probably have more people in your cell phone that don't do church than do church. I mean, can we be honest? Can we be real today, have an honest conversation? You probably know more people that say, Jesus, I'm cool with, but church, ain't trying to do it. And in fact, the recent stats suggest that only about 39, and it's going down to 22% of people in America actually attend church. 39 to 22%, depending on which poll that you get, depending on which poll that you look at, go to church. That means that there's a whole lot of people that say, I don't do church. You know, church is too long. It's during football season. It's the preacher's going to always talk about the same thing anyway. He's always going to end with Jesus. So I know exactly what's going to happen. I don't need church. So that's the first problem. And many of us, when we look at why we start a church, we look at that and say, no. We need to start churches because evidently people aren't going to church, so we need to make churches that people will actually attend. And so if 39 to 22% of the people go to church, and that's a whole lot of people that just don't do church. That's problem number one. Problem number two is that the state of the church is that when you look at churches, many churches do not have good reputations. Yeah. There's a lot of us that we even have been to a church where it just something wasn't right. The preacher wasn't right. Not this church, right? Okay, just checking. All right. So churches don't have good reputations. I mean, when you turn on the news, people are a little skeptical about churches today, especially when they're in like vision projects and things like that. Because how many times have we seen churches ask for resources and they never build nothing? Or maybe the church has resources, but the pastor is driving a Bentley or something like that, and we have a little skepticism. I drive a Mazda, just so you know. So churches have issues, pastors have issues, and let's not even talk about all the scandalous stuff that we have seen in the church. Oh, God. I mean, it is worse than some type of reality TV show. I mean, there's drama in the church. There's all kind of stuff happening over there and over here and over there, and we see it all. I mean, it is on Front Street. And churches sometimes do not have good reputations. People are cool with Jesus, but when they look at the church, they're like, there's a whole lot of drama in the church. In fact, not only is there drama, but there's something called I can't even spell the word, some of y'all know it. Oh, some of y'all, hypocrites. I knew y'all would know that one. Okay, so hypocrites, there's a lot of hypocrites in the church, so a lot of people look at church and say, I don't want to go up there with a bunch of phony and fake people who are professing Jesus on Sunday, but are riding with the devil on Monday. Not only that, but then there's a problem because we are a church plant. That means that this church did not exist 3 years ago. This church was just a concept. It was an idea. And so we are a church plant. That means that we are trying to get started. We are trying to do something, that we had a vision, that we had a plan, and we are super excited about it. But all the stats suggest that 90% of all church plants fail in the first year. So why would you plant a church? Why would you be a part of a church that's going to have a failure rate at almost 90%? Why would you do it? Why would you do it? When stats suggest that most church plants never even get to 100 people in 4 years. Why would you do it? Those are just some problems, but that's not even the other real underlying issues and problems that you will face when you're part of a church plant, like finding buildings. That's problematic. How do you do that? How do you raise funds? How do you do that? How do you start a church in a bank with 12 people? And what the 12 people didn't know is that the bank was rat infested. What you didn't see was the pastor getting to the church at 4 o'clock in the morning with rat traps and killing all the rats before he preached the sermon on Sunday morning. What y'all didn't see was the water breaking, and the back room where the kids were having service was all flooded out, and he would be there with a shop vac in his family drying out the carpet just so that the kids didn't smell mold and then nobody else smell mold. How do you plant a church when you walk from the front door and walk right into the sanctuary and the only barrier that you have is a black cloth that everybody can see through, and anytime it ever had a little bit of wind, it was just blowing right in? How do you start a church when you bootleg? How do you get people to commit and grow and develop and to see vision while you're in the middle of a wilderness? How do you outgrow the bank and then try to figure out what are we going to do next? How are we going to do it? And through supernatural acts of God, God continued to move and God continued to breathe on it despite all the problems and despite all the statistics. Even though 90% of them all fail, God says, I still got room for more churches. I still want more people to do more things. I still want you serving God. I know that I gave you a building that's got rats in it, but don't worry about the rats. I will turn your trash into treasure. I will do something in you that I've never done before in my life. So here's the conclusion. Even though we got all of these problems, we have all of these things that are working against us, we got one thing that's working for us, and the God of the universe is working for us. And if God be for you, then who can be against you? So despite the odds, and despite the problems, and despite the pressure, and despite the stress, trust me, there's a whole lot of stress in doing stuff for God. There's a whole lot of stress that comes with any time you say, God, I surrender all. There's a whole lot of stress that comes with, God, I'm willing to give up my life to serve you. I don't care if it costs me my life. God says, I'll honor that. Despite all of that, we're still going to keep following God's vision for this house. Come on, let's celebrate today up in this place. So when you find yourself in the middle of a situation, you find yourself in the middle of a pickle, when you find yourself in the middle of a storm, you find yourself in the middle of a trial or tribulation, just know that God has a purpose for that thing. Despite the odds being stacked against you, you're not lucky to have made it. You are loved by God. That's the reason why you're still here. God has loved you, has continued to love you, and will keep on loving you through all of the drama, through all the stress. Even when it does not make any sense, I'm still going to keep following God's vision for my life. Is that anybody's prayer there today when it doesn't make any sense. I'm still going to follow God. And so here we have in the book of Exodus, we find out that the people of Israel are now encamped in the wilderness. Many of you guys were here a couple of weeks ago when I talked about you got to work that wilderness. Look at somebody, say, work that wilderness. Work. Hey, work. Oh, my bad. You better work that wilderness out. So here you have the people of Israel. They are encamped at this mountain, and God tells them, I want you to start for the very first time. I want you to make a place for me. He calls it the tabernacle. This is kind of the first portable church. This is the first church plant on planet Earth. God says, build a tabernacle for me. I want you to house all the 10 commandments that I'm getting ready to give you. Put them in the Ark of the Covenant. I want a place to be worshiped. I want a place where I can bring people in, where their sins can be atoned for. I want a place that is a redemption place. I want a place where it's so bloody and it's so smelly up in there that everybody knows that I am God. I want the sweet fragrance of your praise to be there. And Moses says, okay, I'll build it. The problem is Moses is a visionary. Everybody say visionary. He's a visionary, but he's not a builder. There's a difference. I'm going to make this a master class on vision today. Y'all ready for it? So there are two different types of people. There are people that have great vision. There are people that know how to look at a problem, and they can look at it from point A, but they don't know point B, C, D, E, F, and G. They know how to get to Z. All they know is that God said it, we're going to build it, we're going to do it. That's how it's going to happen. But they don't know the steps to do anything. There are certain types of people on this planet, I might be one of those kinds of people, where I can see it, but I can't systemize it. Okay, can I come on down your lane? See, there are people on planet Earth that can just see stuff. They just know how to do stuff, but they can't explain nothing. That's the reason why some of you guys went to school with some teachers that had vision, but they couldn't teach anything. They couldn't explain it. They just, look, watch me do it. You like, I'm frustrated. I need a step. I'm 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I can see that illustration didn't work. Let me give you another illustration. So for all of my fellows, make some noise, men. Make some noise. All right. So men, we have a problem with visuals, okay? So we get a box. Inside the box is a little pamphlet that says instructions. We will look at the box and not the instructions, and we'll start putting it together. Is that anybody else's house up in here? You will look at the little thing. It could be a shelf. It could be whatever it is. It could be a bicycle. We look at it and be like, oh, yeah, I know how to do it. This is all you got to do. Put this there, put that 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 there. And the next thing you know, you got a whole bunch of stuff and parts that are left over. You're like, you don't need that. That's extra. They put a little extra in there for us. So therefore, now your kid is riding a bike that's been held together not by screws but by duct tape because you didn't follow the instructions. Okay, all right. And so ladies, you are not exempt from this too because men and women, we think differently. And so you guys think in instructions, okay? That's the reason why there are things like cookbooks and stuff like that. It says step 1, add flour. How much flour do I need to have? You only need to add half a cup of flour. Got that? Cool. All right, step 2. All right, step 2 is add sugar. How much sugar do I need? 2 cups of sugar. Okay, got that. All right, now add milk. Now add this. Now add that. Now add this. Now add that. And men are like, because all we saw was the cake on the box. We like, just put some eggs in there, put some butter in there. You are good. And now your cake is leaning to the side and not doing what it's supposed to do, and it tastes nasty. So there are people that are vision-oriented, and then there are people that have the right skill sets to actually get it done. It is the same thing in terms of building. In the construction industry, you have architects and then you have general contractors, and a lot of times they are in conflict with one another because the architect sees it, but the general contractor actually has to build it, and because the person that sees it can't build it, and the person that builds it can't draw it, they are oftentimes butting heads against each other constantly and consistently. It is the same way in terms of life, that God has a vision, but sometimes God doesn't give us any instructions. God says, I want you to live this way, but he doesn't give you a model. Sometimes God says, I want you to do this, but he doesn't give you a model. Moses, I want you to build a tabernacle. Huh? Moses like, look, I don't know how to do it. I barely could speak good. When you told me to go down to Pharaoh to let the people go, I about had an asthma attack when you told me to do that. I was like, God, I can't do that. I can't speak. I got a stuttering problem. God says, don't worry about that. I'll use somebody else to come alongside you that can actually speak. So your brother Aaron will speak for you. In other words, sometimes when you follow God's vision, you may not have the skill sets to do it, but God will bring the right people with the right skills at the right time in order for the right job. Are y'all catching this today? So watch this now. Moses is not a builder. He cannot do anything construction-wise. He is not Noah. He is not a person that is a master carpenter. He is not Jesus. He doesn't know how to do that. He barely knew how to get the people out of Egypt. He like, look, God gave me a stick. I was like this, and then the water went like that, and that was all I know. But God began to bring the right people with the right skills at the right time. So Bezalel and Oholiab are these two people. Now, I know that they got two big fancy names. They are not mentioned in the Hall of Faith with like people like Abraham and Samson and Paul and all that kind of stuff. But these two, I would argue, are some of the most major people in Israel's history because they are the people that actually built the tabernacle and built the Ark of the Covenant. You don't find their name listed on the who's list. They are not featured in, Times Magazine for, best 100 people on planet Earth. They are not those people. They are just two guys that have a skill set. And the Bible says that every skilled person to whom the Lord has given skills and ability to, they knew how to work with the construction of the sanctuary. And God says, and they are to do the work just as I have commanded them. What does that mean? That means that we didn't plant this church by ourselves. Some of y'all need to celebrate because some of you guys have done some work around here. Some of you guys have been building some things around here. God brought you at the right time with the right skills at the right moment. You got to celebrate that. Come on, let's celebrate that. God gave us vision, but he had to bring you. This is a celebration of you, not us. It's a celebration of you. Look what God is doing through you. Some of you didn't even realize that you had the skill sets that you have. Some of you got put into positions because you were the only ones that were here in the beginning stages and phases of life. Some of you guys, it has been a 180 in your personality, in your temperament. Some of you were shy when you first got here, timid, didn't really want to be around anybody. Now here you are hugging everybody, loving everybody, kissing babies like you the president. We celebrate that. We celebrate that. We celebrate that because God brings the right people with the right skills at the right time. It works also in life. You can't do everything. That's a word for somebody right here in this room. You can't do everything. Adam was not meant to be alone. You can't do everything. Catch this. Your boy can't do everything. Melissa can, but I can't do everything well. And so God had to bring the right people at the right time with the right skills. That's what we're celebrating today. Not only we celebrate that, but in verse number 2, that Moses summoned the two, Bezalel and Oholiab, and every skilled person whom the Lord had given ability, and they were willing to come and do the work. Catch it now. Notice now, they knew what their skill sets were, and they only did that. They only did that. You didn't see Oholiab and Bezalel saying that we want to sing in the choir. They only did what they're gifted. Look at somebody say, only do what you're gifted at. No, only do what you're gifted. Okay, so here they are. They only did that. And in verse number 3, something begins to shift. There's some tension in the text. The text says, they received from Moses all the offerings the Israelites had brought to carry out the work of constructing the sanctuary, and the people continued to bring freewill offerings morning after morning. I want you to see this. I want you to see this in the text. It's crazy. It's crazy. So they're doing their job, and as a result of them doing what God had gifted them for, every morning somebody came and brought an offering every single morning. Verse number 4, so all the skilled workers who were doing all the work on the sanctuary left what they were doing. They were working. They quit work. They quit work just so they could have a conversation with Moses and tell him what was happening there. And they said to Moses, the people are bringing more than enough for doing the work the Lord commanded to be done. They had unstoppable momentum and abundant resources. All because they gave their life and their commitment to what God wanted to be done. They followed the vision. If you follow God's vision for your life, God will give you the momentum that you need to sustain you, but then also the resources that you need to also sustain you. The reason why many of us are in the situations that we're in is because we want to give up when it gets a little too hard, not realizing that the momentum that we have is supernatural. Our momentum does not stop just because we encounter a hurdle or a problem. Our momentum does not stop because even the gates of hell will never ever prevail against the church. We serve a God who is unstoppable. The Bible asks a rhetorical question: is there anything too hard for our God? The answer is no. God can do anything. God never fails. Even when someone is dead, God can resurrect them. Hey, Lazarus, come on out of there. Stop playing. Get on up. All right? God can even do that. Even when we see Jesus go to the cross and be crucified, he took nails in his hands. He took nails in his feet. He was pierced in his side. He took a crown of thorns upon his head. He was dead. The disciples said, well, that was it. It's over now. But Jesus said, y'all missed it. Y'all missed the whole point. I told you the sign. I gave you the sign of Jonah. Just like Jonah was going to be in that fish for 3 days, the Son of Man will also rise. God says, I'll do the impossible. I'll take someone that has been in the grave for 3 days and I'll build a whole entire movement off of that, letting you know that the resurrection is indeed real. And there's nothing that can stop God's momentum. And as Christians, we ought to figure out how to flow in that momentum. That whatever God is doing in that season, it is my job and my responsibility to make sure that we flow into whatever God is doing. Because when you find yourself flowing in God's vision for your life, you are unstoppable, and God will systematically be able to give you the resources that you need when you need them. I don't know who I'm preaching to, but I want somebody to know up in here that God will supply all of your needs exactly when you need them. You don't even know how he's doing it. You don't even know, but God is keeping that thing going and keeping that thing moving. Can I just share just a praise report with you today? Can I share a praise report? Can I really do that? And so when we first started this church, one of the first things that happened, there was a grocery store chain that came into the community, and they wanted to be a blessing. And so Melissa sat down with the person that was trying to do community outreach, and they gave us a $4,000 grant. That was the first seed that we received, $4,000, okay? $4,000, okay? And they said, we just want to be a blessing to this new organization called Victory Kid Sports. We still got the big giant check, okay, to this day, all right? That grocery store chain just went out of business. But guess who didn't go out of business? Did y'all hear what I just said? They went out of business, but guess who didn't go out of business? Because you can't stop God's business. Come on, let's celebrate that. That was just a little inkling. I wouldn't go talk to my pastor and say, hey, pastor, I'm thinking about planting a church. I expected him to say no, because all the stats say don't plant a church. If you can do anything else, don't plant a church. Be a stockbroker, make some money. Don't plant a church. Be a doctor, be a lawyer. Do something that everybody's excited about. Don't start a church. Be a YouTuber. Do whatever you got to do. Don't start a church. But when I told him my vision, and I had a little perspective, and I told him about all the people that need to be reached in the Space Coast and how churches weren't reaching them and how we were excited about that, he said, how much do you need? I wasn't expecting that. I was hoping you were going to say no. How much do you need? I was like, I don't know. He was like, here's $12,000. Here you go. I'm like, not only that, but then he called somebody and said, hey, I told Stanley that I was going to support him. I want you to support him. Then somebody else gave. Then somebody else gave. Then somebody else gave. Then somebody else gave. Every single month, somebody was giving, until the point where we raised over $85,000 just to start this church alone. How much does it take to start the church? A whole lot of money, and then some more. But guess what? God supplied. We had a building before we had a church. God supplied. I know there was rats in there, but it don't matter. It was ours. And we loved it. And we outgrew it. And then we kept growing. And we keep growing. Because God cannot be stopped. When you find God's vision for your life, stay in that. Stay in that lane. Because that's where your provision comes from, is within the will of God. This is the will of God for this season in our life. I know it. You can look around this room and you can sense that God is doing something. That God is growing something. That God is moving in something. And everything that we're doing, we are flowing in the very lane that God has given us. And as a result of that, resources from different cities, Palm Bay, Titusville, Orlando, Iowa, Vegas, Atlanta, whoever, God is doing something. In this particular context, Moses is just staying with the vision. It's hard. I get it, Moses. It's hard. You were trying to lead millions of people to a promised land. You gave them a vision, but you don't know how to get there. But while you're waiting to get to your next level, God says, build me a sanctuary. Build me a place where you can give me some praise. Build me a place where I could be worshiped. And if you worship me in this season, then I'll make sure that your next season is always taken care of. That's a word for somebody right there. You better worship God right now in this right now season, because you never know when God is getting ready to open up the floodgates of heaven and pour you out some blessings and put you into another season. Your promise is coming. Your vision is coming. Your next level is coming, and it's going to be big. The things that God has prepared for you are already ready, but you better praise God now like it's already here. Come on, let's lift up some praise in this place. Verse number 6, let's jump, because we got to get out of here so we can go get something to eat, right? Yeah, we got to get out of here. So there's some excitement now. There's some excitement. The people are so excited. There's some energy now. The effort is coming in. Everybody's excited. Everybody's super excited. And Moses, in the middle of this excitement, like, hey, hold up. Stop. What do you want us to do? Stop giving. Why, Moses? Because God has already supplied more than enough to do the work. We ain't there yet. We ain't there yet. We ain't there yet. But the goal is one day, it might be next month, it might be a year from now, it might be 10 years from now. Who cares when it is? But I want to be able to give this order. Y'all stop giving. Have you ever been to a church where the pastor says, stop giving forever? Wouldn't that be awesome? We moving towards it. We want to get to the place where God does something so crazy in our midst that we like, hey, stop. God has already taken care of everything. We ain't there yet. We a baby church. We 3 years old. But maybe one day, that's our goal. To have so much excitement and so much energy and so much effort, I get to stand up in here and say, stop! We can all quit and go home. God's taking care of everything. This church can get there if we follow the vision. We got to follow the vision. Moses gives an order. No man or woman is to make anything else as an offering. Nothing else. And the people were restrained. Now, hear the words, restrained. I can only imagine this from a supernatural imagination that people are coming and they got gifts in their hands. Here you are, you just came from your house and you got all this stuff that you're trying to bring for the dedication of the sanctuary, for the building up of the sanctuary. And here you got all this, you got your cattle back there with a cart full of stuff, and all of a sudden Moses like, hey, stop. He's like, no, he didn't. I just went to the house, brought all this stuff over here. You know how many times I had to stop over here and let this animal use the bathroom just so I can get all the way over here? You know how we are. And Moses is like, stop. Well, Moses, look. Take it anyway. Take it anyway because we want to do this for God. Moses is like, stop. In fact, arrest them. Restrain them for giving. It's too much. It's way too much. This is crazy. This is ridiculous. Well, that's what happens when God gets into something. It gets crazy and it gets ridiculous. God will do all kinds of crazy and ridiculous things in your midst if you just let him. If you get excited about what God is doing and provide the energy and the effort, God will literally blow our minds. God has already blown our minds. God is going to continue to blow our minds. No, we're not there yet, but we're going to get there if we keep on flowing in God's vision. Now, what does all this mean for you? What it means is that if you're not walking in the vision that God has for you, then you are missing the biggest aspect of your life. I don't want nothing from you. I want this for you. I want God to do amazing things in your life where you can look at all the odds and say, I shouldn't be where I am. I shouldn't be married to who the person I'm married to. I shouldn't have the job that I have today. I should not have the children because, trust me, I was not the best parent in the world, but my kids are all educated and have gone on, got jobs, they're productive in life, and they love Jesus. Hallelujah, praise God, amen. Shouldn't be here. But God's vision for my life has been so powerful in my life. It's the one thing that keeps me moving and motivated in life. If you knew what God had in store for you, oh my God, it'll blow your mind. If you got to sit down with God and he developed the master plan for your life and just gave you a book with the master plan, some of us still wouldn't read it because we don't follow instructions. So that's the reason why many of us in life, it's all about trial and error and more error and more error. And we keep falling and falling and falling. But the beauty of God is that God's vision even includes our imperfections. So much so that he was willing to provide Jesus as a perfect solution to all of our mess ups. So that way we can experience God's truest vision for our life. You don't have to be a perfect person to be used by God. I'm pretty sure Bezalel and Aholiab were not perfect. In fact, the very next verse, the very next chapter, after all of this excitement of the people bringing all this stuff to the sanctuary, they start building a golden calf. But yet God still loved them through all their issues. And the thing that I love about God is that his vision includes me. It don't have to. I am here for such a time as this to plant this church in this moment, in this season, with all the right people, with all the right skills, so that way somebody else can get right with God. That's the reason why we exist. Come on, let's celebrate God for the word today.